Many religions today still enforce tithing, as described in the Old Testament. The question is, should people still follow the law of tithing today? But before we answer that, when did God command the tithe? Genesis 14, verses 18 to 20. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest of God Most High. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your enemies into your hand. And Abram gave him a tenth of everything. In verse 20, it states that Abraham gave a tithe, and the tithe he gave to Melchizedek came from the spoils or the goods they took from the kings, peoples, and cities they defeated in war. Notice the verse carefully. There is nothing that says what Abraham did was a command from God, nor is there anything that says Melchizedek asked for a tithing when he met Abraham. The tithe Abraham gave was voluntary. So when did the tithing commanded by God appear? Hebrews 7, verse 5. And those descendants of Levi who received the priestly office have a commandment in the law to take tithes from the people, that is, from their brothers, though these also are descendants of Abraham. In short, the command to give the tithe began in the time of the Levitical priests, or the descendants of Abraham. The tithe commanded for the Levites was to come from their own brothers, not from the property of enemies as Abraham did. Now, if you belong to a sect or religious organization that enforces the tithe, and I call your leader a scam, I understand if I've just insulted you. If you're someone who's a devotee of what you believe in and doesn't want to give yourself a chance to learn something new and deeper from the Bible, you can skip and dislike my video. If you're the type of person who wants to learn so you don't get deceived by others, or who investigates and compares things before agreeing with someone else's beliefs, then this channel is for you. I'm telling you this because nowadays, many deceitful pastors use the tithing system to get rich. The goal of my channel is to educate people about the types of beliefs they should avoid and to teach them how to properly use the Bible. Now, let's get back to the topic about the tithing. What is the deepest reason why God commanded the tithing to the Israelites back then? Where is the tithe supposed to go, and who are the ones who are supposed to benefit from it? Deuteronomy 26:12. When you have finished paying all the tithe of your produce in the third year, which is the year of tithing, giving it to the Levite, the sojourner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that they may eat within your towns and be filled. Do your pastors read this verse to you? Have you noticed how the tithe was properly implemented in the Old Testament? I'll say it again so you can understand better. Then ask your conscience if this is what's actually happening with the tithing you give to your church. Are the foreigners benefiting from your church's tithing now? Are the orphaned children benefiting from the tithing you're doing now? What about widows who lost their partners early and have no one to provide for them? Are they also benefiting from your church's tithing?
And to complete the exact meaning of the tithe, let us read the Numbers 18:26. Furthermore, you shall speak to the Levites and say to them, when you take from the people of Israel the tithe that I have given you from them as your inheritance, you shall present from it a contribution to the Lord, a tithe of the tithe. Is there such a thing as a tithe of the tithe? Meaning the tithe is reduced by another 10%, and that is what they offered to God back then. Does your pastor do that? You can fool yourself, but the reality is that no one burns sacrifices anymore, because the tithe includes offering to God. That's the complete definition of the tithe. Even if you say your church gives to foreigners, to orphans, to widows, but if your church isn't making any burnt offering to God, it still can't be called a tithe because the tithe includes the burnt offering for God. To better understand the story, there were 12 tribes of Israel: the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Benjamin, the tribe of Joseph, etc. And one of the 12 was the tribe of Levi.
The tribe of Levi did not receive any portion of the land in Canaan. God gave them nothing. Their role would be to serve in the temple, and because they had no inherited land, they also had no livelihood. So God gave them the tithe, which they in turn distribute to the poor, and from the tithe they also take their offerings to be burned. How much are the selling prices of a cow, a goat, and a sheep nowadays? The poor can no longer afford to spend that kind of money today. That is why Christ abolished the tithe in his time, because it would no longer be applicable in the future. The new law for Christians to follow today can be read in 2 Corinthians 9:7. Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. This is now our law. You are free to give beyond the tithe. You can even give without reaching the tithe, because what is being discussed is faith, willingness, and the joyful decision to give. The laws that Christ taught and left us in the New Testament all pertain to faith. So our giving today should also be in accordance with faith.
If you learned something today, please share it with your loved ones. It's no joke to earn money these days. They squeeze themselves to make ends meet by being frugal. And in the end, only the pastors prosper. Only the pastors have better lives, acquire fancy cars, private jets, private helicopters, and beautiful houses. No pastor will admit they're wrong, so you should be smart. Now that you understand the full meaning of the tithe, don't be intimidated by pastors who scare you with this verse. Malachi 3:8, will man rob God? Yet you are robbing me. But you say, how have we robbed you? In your tithes and contributions. What you don't realize is those people are stealing from you. They've studied how to get money from poor members. They only read the verses they choose. And if you feel you learned something today from my channel, give thanks to God.